Have you ever watched anything where an actor had such a striking performance that it becomes difficult to see them separate from their character? Caitlin Dever has a moment like this in the Netflix drama Apple Cider Vinegar. She creates an indelible performance, but are you going to like her? Set at the birth of Instagram, two young women set out to cure their life-threatening illnesses through health and wellness, influencing their global online communities along the way. All of these would be incredibly inspiring if they were all true. So a line that's repeated through this very self-aware drama series is that this is a true-ish story based on a lie. So it makes a lot of what we watch transpire very questionable as to the veracity of the plot elements. Now, this follows a young woman named Belle Gibson, a woman who claimed to have a whole host of ailments, including a glioblastoma or a brain cancer. And just to quell anything, when I'm speaking about the people, I'm only referring to what was presented within the show. I'm not doing a research paper on who of the people may be real and what they actually participated in, or even what the alleged events were. Okay, that sound good? All right, so Gibson, who Dever plays, comes across as very needy and a sympathy-seeking person who could be suffering from some mental illness simply based on the links that she goes to convince others of her health concerns. Dever creates a character that began to be grating rather quickly, and honestly, I was wishing all sorts of bad things on her as each episode went along. Not because Dever was doing a terrible job with her acting, but instead because she was delivering such a palpable character that she made my skin crawl through every scenario. There's a manipulative selfishness that shines in the performance. And while the character may display as a sweet young mom suffering health crises, the actions more than sufficiently show how it's just a facade, made to fool others, but also fill a deep need within herself. Now, Dever certainly needs to be congratulated, even acknowledged for this portrayal, regardless of how accurate the character may or may not be. I mean, it's been a while since I've watched a show where I had to willfully keep going because of the emotional discomfort a character was creating for me. To create drama within the story, there's also a character, Milla, played by Alicia Debnam Carey. Now, this character is diagnosed with sarcoma in her arm and chooses to pursue a natural course of treatment rather than the modalities that the oncologists recommend. So through this, she begins a natural food journey that supposedly has helped others. Now, Milla, she's mostly sympathetic, and when she's explosive, almost all of the time, these outbursts feel legitimate and understandable. And she works as a polar opposite contrast to Belle, because Milla comes across as genuine and sincere. Now, the series has 6 episodes, and almost all of them are over an hour long. By the last 2-ish episodes, I felt the time. It's not that the story becomes boring, it's just repetitive and way slower in unveiling events than it really needs to be. There's a bunch of details that are examined, and I do appreciate a comprehensive approach to creating a well-rounded account. And as the show approaches its conclusion, the events begin to culminate into a more compressed timeline, but the storytelling still is stretching it out. I found myself becoming impatient because we'd seen so much in the way of demonstrating all that Belle was doing, and to raise questions on the truth of her health claims. But the elements, they continued to be examined and doled out, which by this point, kind of unnecessary. I love the mix of snark and human drama that the show embraces. I mentioned that it's self-aware. It's not like this is a Deadpool story where the characters are consistently breaking the fourth wall, but there are brief moments when this does happen, bringing us right into the conversation so that we feel part of the story. Characters knowingly address us at the start of each episode, and then occasionally throughout the episodes, especially with Belle, who will be said or shown to do something, and then she gives very quick insight to make herself look better. Now, this is also a sad and melancholic tale, thanks to the couple of people that we're introduced to who are affected by Belle's recommendations, her promises, and actions. There's this vampiric element to Belle that has her craving the attention while also crafting claims that give people false hope. And part of the driving force for the storytelling is an investigation that begins by 2 reporters, one of whom has a wife with cancer. Now, these arcs can be maddening and frustrating, but also they create a lot of the momentum for the pace, even when there are repetitive sequences. Now, I love the subtle but still powerful commentary on social influencers. This doesn't really get preachy, even condemning. It just works to point out the dangers, even the hypocrisies that exist in the influencer world. That just because we're shown something flashy or impressive, that doesn't make it legitimate or true. And the show illustrates how motives should be questioned, even when someone comes across as utterly sincere. We're shown how Belle is completely wrapped up in her persona and wants it to be true so badly that she projects an identity that is meant to be flawless, but in reality is a Teflon chameleon, always morphing and deflecting negatives to maintain the image. And we, as the audience, get to see how ludicrous that can be, especially as Belle is confronted with undeniable facts. She skillfully bobs, weaves, and distracts, which then reinforces the maddening emotions towards the character. Now, at times the behaviors can begin to border on the absurd side, making me question how a person could be so manipulative and deceitful. But then I remember people exist, and it's way more plausible. Now, I'm glad this is a limited series instead of an ongoing show. As wonderful as Caitlin Dever is, I couldn't revisit this characterization again. The character is really stomach-turning, on just about every front, too. And one of the most frustrating elements of the show comes at the very, very end. We're given a title card that begins to show some final details, not unlike, many real or based on truth stories. This time, though, it's cut short, and it comes across as a middle finger to the audience. It's not something that got my knickers all twisted, but it was still annoying. So overall, Apple Cider Vinegar presents a captivating and angering story that may or may not actually be true, with heart-wrenching and powerfully emotional performances. Caitlin Dever in the lead role knocks it out of the park by delivering a persona that will make you want to shake her like a rag doll and twist her head off like a bottle cap, creating a lasting and memorable impression that will frustrate and haunt for days after. While the storytelling does become drawn out and repetitive, the central theme and ideas are riveting, creating a scathing commentary on social influencers and what, if any, culpability they should own based on their money-making claims. There's a little sex, no nudity, a ton of profanity, not really any violence. I give Apple Cider Vinegar 4 out of 5 couches. Now, this was a somewhat traumatic watching experience, but it doesn't detract from the excellent performances and the captivating story. Okay, have you tried any natural healing options before? How did it work out for you? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.